It was early morning, and the streets were still quiet. The sun had just started to rise, painting the sky in soft shades of pink and orange. A young man stepped out of his small apartment, taking a deep breath, trying to calm the nervous energy swirling inside him. Today was important. More important than most days. Today he had an interview that could change his life. He had been waiting for this chance for months, and he had worked hard to prepare. Every night he had gone over possible questions in his head, rehearsed his answers in front of a cracked mirror, and even imagined how he would shake hands confidently and smile politely. He wore the only clean shirt he had ironed the night before. It was simple, not fancy, but he made sure it looked neat. He paired it with his best trousers, which were worn but tidy, and a pair of shoes that had seen better days but were polished as best as he could. He didn't have much, but he had pride, and he knew that sometimes the right attitude mattered more than money or looks. As he locked the door to his apartment, he thought about his family. They had always supported him, even when times were tough. He thought about his younger siblings who were still in school, and his mother who worked long hours just to make sure there was food on the table. He wanted to make them proud, to show them that hard work could bring something better. Today, he felt both nervous and excited, a strange mix that made his stomach twist and turn. He started walking toward the place of his interview. It was a long walk, but he liked walking. It gave him time to think. He thought about his dreams, his ambitions, and how he had always imagined a better life for himself. He imagined waking up every morning without worrying about money, having a steady job, and maybe even being able to help others one day. He imagined a life where he could smile without thinking about bills, rent, or debt. As he walked, he rehearsed his introduction again. "Good morning. I'm here for the interview. My name is..." He stopped himself, trying not to sound too stiff. He wanted to sound confident but natural. Every step he took, he felt a little lighter, like the walk was helping him carry some of the nervous weight off his shoulders. Then, he saw her. She was standing by the side of the road, looking completely lost and worried. Her car had stopped working, and she seemed unsure of what to do next. At first, he hesitated. He glanced at his watch. He was already running late, and the interview was only a short time away. But he couldn't just walk past her. Something about the way she looked, helpless and anxious, pulled at him. Without thinking too much, he walked over to her. "Hey, do you need some help?" he asked gently. She looked up, surprised, and nodded. "Yes, my car just stopped, and I don't know what to do." He studied the car for a moment. It wasn't his area of expertise, but he had some basic knowledge. He offered to give her a hand, and she gratefully agreed. For the next few minutes, he tried to figure out what was wrong, checking under the hood and even trying to start the engine a few times. It didn't work. Then he offered to call a tow truck, and while waiting, he chatted with her to make the situation feel less stressful. As they waited, she shared that she was on her way to an important meeting. He nodded politely, thinking about how important this must be for her, just like his interview was important to him. He felt a strange connection, realizing that life often threw unexpected challenges at people, no matter who they were. Then he glanced at his watch again. His heart sank. He was going to be late, very late. Panic started to creep in. He thought about the interview and how much it meant. This could be his big chance, the one that would finally open doors for him. But at the same time, he looked at the woman, standing there nervously, waiting for help, and he realized he couldn't just leave her. So he stayed. Minutes felt like hours as they waited for the tow truck to arrive. He tried to keep the conversation light, joking a little to ease the tension. She laughed, a soft, genuine sound, and he realized how small acts of kindness could create a connection between strangers. It didn't matter who she was, or what her position in life was. In that moment, they were just two people helping each other navigate an unexpected challenge. Finally, the tow truck arrived. The driver quickly got to work, and within minutes the car was ready to be taken to a nearby service center. The woman thanked him sincerely, her eyes showing genuine gratitude. He smiled, feeling a warmth in his chest. Helping someone felt good, even if it meant sacrificing his own opportunity. He glanced at his watch again. His heart sank further. He was going to miss the interview, maybe lose the chance entirely. He felt a pang of regret and worry, but deep down, he also felt something else: pride. He had made the choice he believed was right. Even if it cost him his big break, he had stayed true to himself. He walked away, feeling a mixture of disappointment and satisfaction. The street seemed a little quieter now, and the early morning sun felt warmer on his face. He thought about how life had a strange way of testing people, presenting them with choices that weren't easy. And he had made his choice, not for himself, but for someone else who needed help. As he continued walking, his mind wandered back to his family. He thought about telling them what had happened, even if it meant sharing the news that he had missed the interview. He knew they would be proud of him for helping someone in need, even if they wished he had made it on time. By the time he reached a small cafe to sit down and collect his thoughts, he felt exhausted but strangely calm. The world was waking up around him. Cars starting to fill the streets, people rushing to their own destinations. He sipped a cup of coffee, letting the warmth sink in. He thought about how unpredictable life could be, how one moment could change everything, and how sometimes doing the right thing required courage even if it didn't come with immediate rewards. He pulled out his phone and checked the time again. The interview was long over, but he didn't let that ruin the moment. He realized that life had a way of balancing things out, and that maybe, just maybe, this act of kindness would come back to him in a way he couldn't yet imagine. Sitting there, he reflected on the morning. The anxiety he had felt before seemed distant now. Helping someone in need had given him a sense of purpose, a reminder that his value wasn't just measured by interviews or jobs, but by the choices he made and the person he was. He finished his coffee and stepped back out into the street. The city was alive now, buzzing with energy, but he felt a quiet confidence growing inside him. He didn't know what the day would bring, or if he would ever get another chance at the interview. But he knew one thing for certain. He had done the right thing, and that mattered more than anything else. As he walked toward home, he couldn't shake the feeling that this morning, as ordinary as it seemed, was just the beginning of something bigger. Life had a strange way of rewarding people who acted from the heart, and even though he didn't know it yet, the choice he made today would set events in motion that could change his life forever. For now, he focused on the small victories: the warm cup of coffee, the satisfaction of helping someone, and the knowledge that he had stayed true to himself. And as the sun climbed higher into the sky, he felt a quiet hope blooming inside him, a feeling that no matter how hard life got, doing the right thing would always lead to something good. After leaving the girl by the roadside, the young man felt a mixture of relief and anxiety. He had done the right thing by helping her, but the nagging thought of the missed interview kept tugging at his mind. Each step he took back toward the busier part of the city felt heavy. He had imagined this morning as a turning point, a moment when his life could finally begin to change, and now that opportunity seemed to have slipped away. As he walked, he thought about all the small sacrifices he had made over the years. He remembered the nights he spent studying under a dim lamp, the hours spent working part-time jobs just to make ends meet, and the endless hope that one day, something would give him a real chance. And now, here he was, missing what could have been the biggest opportunity of his life. The feeling of disappointment was overwhelming, like a shadow following him wherever he went. Yet, amid the worry, there was also a strange sense of pride. He had chosen kindness over personal gain. That simple decision, to stop and help a stranger, had cost him dearly in practical terms, but it had reinforced a belief that had always guided him. Integrity matters more than convenience. He knew life had a way of testing people, of presenting moments where the right choice might not immediately bring rewards, but could have far-reaching consequences later on. The young man decided to sit in a small park he passed by, hoping that a few minutes of quiet would help him collect his thoughts. Children played nearby, their laughter ringing through the air while elderly couples strolled slowly along the pathways. Watching them, he felt a strange sense of calm. Life continued around him, moving forward, and he reminded himself that this was just one setback. One missed interview did not define his entire future. He pulled out his phone and thought about calling the company to explain, but hesitated. What could he say? That he had helped someone on the road? Would they even understand, or would they just see it as being irresponsible? The uncertainty made his chest tighten. He didn't want to make excuses, yet the truth of the situation was something he couldn't ignore. As he sat there, he noticed people rushing by, each absorbed in their own lives. A businessman on a phone call hurried past. A young woman jogged with determination, and an old man fed pigeons nearby. He realized that everyone had their own challenges, their own urgent moments, and he had just experienced one of those. For the first time that morning, he allowed himself to take a deep breath and accept that some things were beyond his control. Memories of the girl flashed in his mind. Her eyes had been full of worry, and her gratitude had been sincere. He had seen a glimpse of vulnerability and trust in her, and that moment reminded him of why helping others mattered. It wasn't about recognition or reward. It was about being human, about responding with compassion when someone needed it most. And though he had missed his interview, he knew he had done something meaningful. After a while, he decided to walk home. The streets were busier now, the sounds of the city growing louder. Car horns, distant conversations, and the occasional shout from street vendors filled the air. He tried to focus on practical matters, updating his resume, sending follow-up emails, and preparing for the next opportunity. But no matter how much he planned, he couldn't shake the feeling of uncertainty. When he reached home, he found his small apartment quiet. The familiar surroundings provided a strange comfort. He sat down at the worn table in the corner, ran his hands over the stack of papers, and thought about his next steps. He could not undo the morning's events, but he could prepare for what came next. Perhaps there would be another chance. Perhaps life had something else in store for him. Hours passed, and the young man couldn't help but think about the girl. He wondered if she had made it to her meeting, if her day had turned out okay. The thought stayed with him, a gentle reminder that his actions had mattered to someone else even if the world hadn't yet noticed. He felt a mixture of worry and hope, knowing that kindness sometimes returned in unexpected ways. Later that evening, his phone buzzed. At first, he thought it was just a message from a friend, but as he looked at the screen, his heart skipped a beat. It was a message from the girl he had helped that morning. She thanked him again, expressing how much his assistance had meant to her. Reading her words, he felt warmth spread through him, a reminder that the small choices we make can leave a lasting impact. The message also hinted that she wanted to meet him again. He was surprised, unsure why she would reach out beyond just thanking him, but a part of him felt curious and hopeful. Life had a way of surprising people, often when they least expected it. And though he had missed the interview, perhaps this unexpected connection could lead to something meaningful in its own way. As the evening turned into night, he reflected on the day. It had been filled with unexpected twists and challenges, but it had also revealed something important. Character mattered more than timing. He had acted out of genuine concern for another person, and that choice had left an impression, even if it wasn't immediately clear how it would unfold. He decided to prepare for tomorrow with renewed focus. There were still countless opportunities ahead, and he refused to let one missed interview define him. He would keep working, keep learning, and keep living with integrity, trusting that the right chance would eventually come. The feeling of hope, quiet but persistent, settled in his chest, giving him strength to face the days ahead. Throughout the night, he imagined different scenarios. He imagined being recognized for his efforts, meeting new people who valued his character, and finding a path that aligned with his principles. Even though he couldn't predict the future, he realized that every choice he made shaped the path forward. Helping the girl that morning, even at great personal cost, had been one of those defining choices. As he finally went to bed, the young man felt a mix of exhaustion and anticipation. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but he knew that life had a way of rewarding those who acted with kindness and courage. He closed his eyes, feeling the weight of the day lift slightly, and allowed himself to rest, trusting that the seeds of his actions would one day bloom in ways he could never imagine. By the time morning came again, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. The city outside was waking up, the sounds of life filling the air once more. He dressed carefully, tidied his apartment, and prepared himself for whatever opportunities lay ahead. Though the missed interview lingered in his thoughts, it no longer felt like a failure. Instead, It was a reminder of the kind of person he wanted to be, someone who put integrity and compassion above everything else. As he stepped out into the streets, he felt lighter. The world was full of challenges and surprises, but he was ready to face them with courage and heart. The memory of the girl he had helped stayed with him, a symbol of the unexpected ways life could turn. He didn't yet know the full story, but he felt certain that the morning's choice, small as it seemed at the time, would lead to something far greater than he could have imagined. The young man woke up the next morning with a mix of hope and nervousness. His mind kept replaying the events of the previous day, the hurried walk to the interview, the unexpected encounter on the road, and the small feeling of pride he felt for helping someone in need. But beneath that pride, a sense of worry still lingered. He couldn't help but think about the opportunity he had missed. The interview had been his chance, maybe the one that would finally lift him out of the struggles that seemed to follow him everywhere. He got dressed carefully, straightened his shirt, and polished his worn shoes. Even though he knew the interview had passed, he wanted to feel prepared for whatever came next. Life had a way of surprising him, and he reminded himself that every day could bring a new opportunity. He sat for a moment, sipping his morning coffee, trying to plan what he could do to move forward. As he stepped out of his apartment and walked into the bustling streets, he felt the familiar hum of the city. People were rushing to work, shops were opening, and the sounds of cars and chatter filled the air. He had always loved the energy of the city, even if it sometimes felt overwhelming. There was something comforting in knowing that life went on no matter the setbacks. His phone buzzed and he saw a message notification. For a moment he hesitated. He had learned not to get his hopes up too quickly, but when he opened it, his heart skipped a beat. It was from the girl he had helped on the road. She thanked him again, expressing how much his assistance had meant to her. Her words were simple, but they carried a sincerity that made him smile. For the first time since missing the interview, he felt a flicker of excitement. She had asked if they could meet, not just to thank him, but to talk. The young man was surprised and unsure what to expect, but he agreed. There was something about her message that felt genuine, and he couldn't ignore it. Maybe it was curiosity, or maybe it was the quiet hope that life could sometimes reward acts of kindness. They arranged to meet at a small cafe later that day. While walking there, he felt a mixture of anticipation and nervousness. He wondered what she wanted to talk about. Was she just being polite, or was there something more? His mind raced with possibilities, but he tried to remain calm, reminding himself that whatever happened, he had acted rightly the previous day. When he arrived at the cafe, he saw her sitting at a table looking composed and confident. She smiled warmly as he approached, and for a moment, all the stress and worry of the past day seemed to melt away. He greeted her politely, and she thanked him once more for his help. Her gratitude felt genuine, and it touched him deeply. They talked for a while about ordinary things, the weather, the city, and how unpredictable life could be. Then she paused, looking at him with a serious expression. "I want to be honest with you," she said. "You don't know this, but I am the CEO of the company you were interviewing for yesterday." The words hit him like a shockwave. He froze for a moment, trying to process what she had just said. His mind went back to the missed interview, to the panic he had felt when he realized he would not make it on time. The realization that the very person he had helped was the CEO made his stomach twist. He had missed the chance of a lifetime, yet somehow he still felt connected to the possibility of something greater. She smiled, sensing his surprise. "I want you to know that what you did yesterday mattered more than the interview itself," she said. "I was impressed by your willingness to help someone, even when you had your own priorities. That shows character, integrity, and compassion, qualities we value deeply in our company." He felt a mixture of relief and disbelief. Relief because his actions had not gone unnoticed, and disbelief because life had unfolded in a way he could never have imagined. He had acted out of genuine kindness, not expecting anything in return, and now that choice was opening doors he had thought were closed. She continued, explaining that she had been looking for someone with not just skills, but character, someone who could face challenges with patience, empathy, and courage. "Yesterday you showed all of that in a very short amount of time," she said. "I would like to offer you another chance to interview or even discuss joining the team directly, depending on how our conversation goes." His heart raced. The young man felt a mix of excitement, gratitude, and nervousness. He could hardly believe that his simple act of helping someone in need had led to this moment. For years he had struggled, worked hard, and hoped for opportunities, but now life had presented one in the most unexpected way. He thanked her sincerely, feeling a weight lift off his shoulders. He realized that sometimes doing the right thing was its own reward, and yet in this case, it had also brought unexpected opportunities. The conversation flowed naturally after that, filled with mutual respect and understanding. She asked him about his background, his experiences, and his ambitions. He shared his story honestly, without exaggeration or pretense. As they talked, he realized that she genuinely cared about more than just his resume. She wanted to understand the person behind it, the struggles, the dreams, the values that guided him. He had never experienced an interview like this before, where character and integrity mattered as much as skills and qualifications. The conversation gave him a sense of hope he had not felt in a long time. By the time they finished, the young man felt a renewed sense of confidence. He realized that setbacks were not always the end of the road. Missing the interview had felt devastating, but it had led him to a connection that could change his life in ways he had never imagined. He walked home that evening feeling lighter, more hopeful, and grateful for the unexpected turns of life. Over the next few days, they kept in touch. She guided him through the next steps, helping him prepare for a proper interview, giving advice, and showing a level of support he had not anticipated. He worked hard, determined to make the most of the second chance he had been given. The missed interview was now a distant memory, overshadowed by the possibilities that lay ahead. He also reflected on the lessons he had learned. Life often tested people in unexpected ways. Kindness, integrity, and compassion were not always rewarded immediately, but they left impressions that could influence outcomes in ways beyond imagination. Helping someone, even at a personal cost, could create connections and opportunities that no one could predict. As the young man prepared for the upcoming interview, he felt a deep sense of purpose. He was not just working for a job. He was demonstrating the values that had guided him all along. The experience had reminded him that life was about more than success measured by titles or salaries. It was about the kind of person you were, the choices you made, and the integrity with which you lived your life. When the day of the formal interview finally arrived, he felt ready in a way he had never been before. The nervousness was still there, but it was tempered by a quiet confidence. He had already faced challenges, acted with integrity, and shown character in ways that mattered. This time he knew he could present not just his skills, but the essence of who he was. Walking into the office, he was greeted warmly. The CEO smiled, acknowledging him with a nod of recognition. The interview felt more like a conversation than a test. Questions were asked, answers were given, but underlying it all was a sense of mutual respect and understanding. He spoke honestly, confidently, and authentically, without trying to impress with fancy words or exaggerations. By the end of the interview, both of them felt a connection that went beyond the typical employer-employee dynamic. She had seen his potential not just in the tasks he could perform, but in the way he approached life, faced challenges, and treated others. He had proven that his character was as strong as his ambition, and that combination made him invaluable. Walking out of the office that day, the young man felt a sense of triumph, not just for the opportunity he had been given, but for the journey that had led him here. He had faced disappointment, acted with kindness, and shown integrity, and now life was rewarding him in ways he had never anticipated. The missed interview, the stressful morning, and the unexpected encounter had all been part of a chain of events that brought him closer to his dreams. That evening, as he reflected on the journey, he understood a truth he would carry with him forever. Life had a way of balancing itself, and the choices made from the heart often led to outcomes beyond imagination. The morning he had chosen kindness over personal gain had not just helped a stranger. It had opened doors, created opportunities, and set the stage for a future full of hope, growth, and possibility. For the young man, this was more than a story of a missed interview or a chance encounter. It was a reminder that life rewarded those who acted with integrity, that kindness could create connections that mattered, and that setbacks were sometimes the beginning of something greater than one could ever imagine. And as he walked home, the city lights flickering around him, he felt a sense of quiet pride. He had faced challenges, made difficult choices, and stayed true to himself. And in doing so, he had discovered that life's true rewards often came to those who lived with courage, compassion, and a heart full of hope. After the young man's second meeting with the girl, everything started to feel surreal. The idea that someone he had helped out of sheer kindness was actually the CEO of a successful company had left him in awe. It was hard to imagine that a small act of generosity could ripple into something so significant. He had always believed in doing the right thing, but now he realized that life sometimes returned those choices in ways that went far beyond expectation. The following days were a whirlwind. He had been given a chance to formally join the company, but before that could happen, the CEO wanted to spend more time with him, to understand who he truly was beyond what a resume could show. She wanted to see how he approached challenges, how he worked under pressure, and how he interacted with others. For the young man, it was both exciting and nerve-wracking. He knew this was not just about proving his skills, but showing the integrity and character that had guided him all along. Their meetings were always conversational. She didn't treat him like a candidate, and he didn't feel the pressure of a typical interview. Instead, she asked about his life, his struggles, and the choices he had made that shaped who he was. He spoke openly about his background, about growing up in a neighborhood where opportunities were scarce, and about working multiple jobs just to support himself and his family. He talked about the dreams he had kept close to his heart, the kind of future he hoped to build, and the principles that he tried to live by every day. She listened carefully, nodding and asking questions that made him reflect even more deeply. "You've faced a lot of challenges," she said gently, "and yet you've managed to hold on to your values. That's rare." Her words struck a chord with him. He realized that for once someone was genuinely interested in who he was as a person, not just in what he could do for the company. That kind of attention was new, and it made him feel seen in a way he hadn't felt before. As the days passed, their conversations went beyond professional topics. They talked about the city, the people in it, and the challenges faced by ordinary individuals trying to make their way. They laughed about small incidents, shared stories of hardship and resilience, and even discussed dreams that seemed far away at first but felt possible when spoken aloud. Through these interactions, he began to see that success was not just about money or status. It was about vision, empathy, and the ability to connect with others. One afternoon, as they were walking through the office floor, she paused and looked at him thoughtfully. "Do you know why I reached out to you yesterday?" she asked. He shook his head. "I had been thinking about the qualities I wanted in someone for my team. Skills are important, yes, but character is more so. When I saw how you helped me without hesitation, despite your own pressing needs, I knew I was looking at someone who truly understood what it means to care about others." He felt a warmth in his chest. The moment reminded him that even small acts of kindness carried weight, sometimes far greater than immediate recognition. It also made him realize that life had a way of testing people, placing them in moments where the choices they made could reveal who they really were. And in that moment, he had chosen compassion, a choice that now held enormous significance. Over the next few weeks, he became more involved with the company, first through discussions, then through small projects. Each assignment was an opportunity to demonstrate not just his abilities, but his mindset, his approach to challenges, and his willingness to go the extra mile. He worked diligently, staying true to his values and giving his best effort, even in moments when no one was watching. The CEO watched him closely, noting how he handled difficulties, how he treated colleagues, and how he approached problem-solving. She saw someone who was reliable, thoughtful, and resilient. More than that, she saw a person who had faced hardship, but had not allowed it to define him negatively. Instead, he had used those experiences to develop empathy, patience, and a grounded sense of responsibility. One day, after completing a particularly challenging project, she invited him to her office. "I have been watching how you handle things," she said, "and I am impressed. You have not just the skills, but the qualities that are difficult to teach. Integrity, compassion, perseverance, they are evident in everything you do." He felt a mix of pride and humility. Pride because his efforts and values were being recognized, and humility because he knew that his journey had been shaped by so many small moments and choices, some of which seemed insignificant at the time. This acknowledgement reminded him that character mattered, and that sometimes life's rewards came to those who acted from the heart. She continued, "I want to offer you a position in my company. You will have the opportunity to grow, to take on challenges, and to make an impact. But more importantly, I want to see how you continue to lead with the same values that brought you here." The young man felt a surge of emotion. For years, he had hoped for a chance to step out of struggle and into opportunity. Now that chance was not only real but offered in a way that honored who he was. He accepted, feeling grateful, excited, and determined to make the most of this new chapter. As he settled into his new role, he began to see the company from a perspective he had never experienced before. It was not just a place of work. It was a place where values were lived, where people were encouraged to grow, and where leadership was measured not by authority, but by empathy and integrity. Every day brought new lessons, challenges, and opportunities to make a difference, and he embraced them all with the same commitment that had guided him throughout his life. The girl, now his mentor and CEO, continued to guide him, sharing insights, offering advice, and showing him the ropes. She encouraged him to think critically, to make decisions thoughtfully, and to never lose sight of the principles that had defined him. Her mentorship was invaluable, and he absorbed everything with gratitude, knowing that this guidance was shaping not just his career, but the kind of person he would become. In time, he realized that the missed interview, which had once seemed like a failure, had been a pivotal moment. If he had not stopped to help her on the road, he might never have had the opportunity to join this company, to learn, to grow, and to work under someone who valued him for who he truly was. What had felt like a setback had transformed into a stepping stone, teaching him that life often rewarded those who acted with compassion, courage, and integrity. He also noticed how his own perspective began to change. He became more aware of the people around him, more willing to help, and more committed to leading by example. He understood that success was not just about personal gain, but about making a positive impact on others, about lifting those around him and fostering an environment where kindness and integrity mattered. One evening, as he reflected on his journey, he realized how far he had come, from a young man walking nervously to an interview, to someone who had faced challenges and chosen kindness over convenience, to now being part of a company that valued him. He felt a profound sense of gratitude. Life had tested him, shaped him, and rewarded him in ways he could never have predicted. He thought about the lessons he had learned, that integrity mattered more than timing, that compassion could open doors, and that setbacks were often disguised opportunities. He understood that each choice, no matter how small, carried weight and could influence the path of his life in unimaginable ways. Looking back, he realized that helping the girl on the road had been more than an act of kindness. It had been a turning point, a moment that revealed the kind of person he was and set in motion a chain of events that would transform his life. It had shown him that living with integrity and empathy was not only the right thing to do, but also the path to true opportunity and fulfillment. From that point onward, he approached every challenge with the same mindset. He worked diligently, treated others with respect, and never lost sight of the values that had brought him this far. His journey was no longer just about personal success. It was about building a life that reflected who he truly was, a life guided by kindness, courage, and integrity. And through it all, the CEO remained a guiding presence, reminding him that true success was measured not by what you achieved alone, but by the impact you had on others and the character you maintained along the way. She had seen potential in him that went beyond skills and experience, and together, they began to create something remarkable. A partnership built on mutual respect, shared values, and the belief that doing the right thing always mattered. As the young man walked home one evening, the city lights reflecting off the wet pavement after a light rain, he felt a quiet sense of satisfaction. He had faced uncertainty, acted with courage, and stayed true to himself. And in doing so, he had discovered that life had a way of rewarding those who lived with integrity, sometimes in ways far beyond what they could imagine. For him, the journey was not just about a job or a position. It was about realizing that his values, his choices, and his actions defined his path. And in that realization, he found hope, purpose, and the knowledge that the future held endless possibilities for those who lived with a kind heart and unwavering integrity. From the moment the young man started working with the company, life began to feel different in ways he had never imagined. Each morning he woke up with a sense of purpose, knowing that his efforts mattered and that his choices were appreciated. He had entered a world where hard work, honesty, and kindness were noticed and rewarded, not just the flashy achievements or empty credentials. For someone who had grown up facing constant struggle, this was a revelation. He started each day by arriving early at the office. The city outside was waking up, filled with the sounds of cars, footsteps, and conversations. But inside the company, there was a rhythm that felt welcoming, almost like a second home. His colleagues treated him with respect, not because of his past achievements, but because of the way he approached work, the care he showed, and the integrity he carried in every task. He realized that this environment was nurturing not just skills but character, and he felt lucky to be part of it. Every task, big or small, became an opportunity to learn. He was given responsibilities that challenged him, requiring him to think creatively, act decisively, and collaborate with others. Even when mistakes happened, he was guided patiently, not criticized harshly. It was clear that the CEO valued growth over perfection, and this perspective gave him the confidence to push himself further than he ever had before. One morning, after successfully completing a project, the CEO called him into her office. "I have been observing your work," she said with a smile. "Not just the results, but how you approach problems, how you handle pressure, and how you treat your colleagues. You've exceeded my expectations, and it's clear you have a bright future here." The young man felt a rush of emotion, pride, relief, and deep gratitude all at once. He had worked tirelessly, driven by the hope of opportunity and the desire to make a better life for himself. And now that effort, combined with the choices he had made along the way, was being recognized. Over the next few months, he was given more significant responsibilities, each designed to challenge him and help him grow. He led small projects, contributed ideas, and even helped mentor new employees. He realized that leadership was not about authority or status. It was about helping others, staying true to values, and inspiring confidence through action. His experiences had taught him patience, resilience, and empathy, and now he could apply those lessons to make a meaningful impact. Despite the professional growth, he never forgot the moments that had brought him here. He often thought back to the day he had helped the girl on the road. That decision, small as it had seemed at the time, had set in motion events that had completely changed the trajectory of his life. He understood now that life often rewarded acts of kindness in ways that were not immediately visible, and he felt a deep sense of gratitude for that lesson. He also noticed how his own perspective on life had changed. He had learned to value moments of connection over material gain, to prioritize integrity over convenience, and to understand that true success was not measured by titles or money, but by the impact one had on others. Each day at the company reinforced these lessons, and he carried them into every interaction, every project, and every decision he made. The CEO remained a guiding presence, providing mentorship, encouragement, and insights into the workings of the company and the world beyond. She shared stories of challenges she had faced, decisions she had made, and principles she had followed. Listening to her, the young man realized that leadership was about vision, empathy, and consistency. It was about creating an environment where people could thrive while staying true to themselves. One evening, after a long day, the young man walked home through the quiet streets, reflecting on the journey that had brought him here. He remembered the nervous steps toward the interview, the hesitation before stopping to help the girl, and the small moments of doubt and hope that had filled his mind. Each choice, each decision had led him to this point, and he felt a profound sense of wonder at how life unfolded in unexpected ways. He also began to give back in small ways. He helped neighbors, offered guidance to younger people trying to find their path, and volunteered time for community projects. He understood now that the true measure of success was not just personal gain, but the ability to make a difference in the lives of others. The lessons he had learned about kindness, empathy, and integrity became the foundation of how he lived, worked, and connected with people. Months passed, and the young man's confidence grew. He became a respected member of the company, known not just for his skill, but for his character. He was trusted to take on leadership roles, and he embraced the challenge with humility and determination. His story became an inspiration to others, a reminder that integrity, courage, and compassion could open doors in ways that talent alone could not. One afternoon, The CEO called him into her office again. "I want to offer you a permanent position on the leadership team," she said. "Your journey here has shown me not just your abilities but your values. That combination is rare, and it's exactly what we need to continue growing." The young man was overwhelmed with emotion. He thought about the journey, the struggles, the missed opportunities, the decision to help a stranger, and the perseverance that had carried him through. All of it had led to this moment, a culmination of choices guided by character and integrity. He accepted, feeling a sense of fulfillment that went far beyond any title or paycheck. He continued to thrive in his role, tackling challenges with determination, supporting his colleagues, and leading projects that made a real impact. Each success was not just about achievement, but about living in alignment with the principles that had guided him from the beginning. The young man realized that life had rewarded him not simply for talent, but for the way he chose to live, even in difficult moments. As he looked back, he understood the true meaning of opportunity. It was not just about being in the right place at the right time. It was about how one responded to the moments life presented. Helping the girl on the road had been a choice that defined him, and it had led to everything that followed. That simple act of kindness had opened a door that he might have missed if he had prioritized his own convenience. He also began to mentor others, sharing his story with young people in his community. He wanted them to understand that success was built on more than skill. It was built on integrity, empathy, and courage. He encouraged them to make choices guided by values, to help others even when it seemed inconvenient, and to trust that life would reward them in ways they could not yet see. Through his journey, he learned to appreciate the small victories, the moments of kindness, the decisions to act with integrity, and the connections formed through empathy and compassion. Each day became an opportunity to live authentically, to grow, and to inspire others. The young man understood that life's true rewards were often hidden, revealed only through patience, persistence, and a commitment to values. Years later, he would look back on that day on the road with gratitude. It was the day that changed everything, the day a small act of kindness transformed his life. It was a reminder that life could surprise in unexpected ways, and that doing the right thing, even in the face of personal cost, could lead to opportunities far beyond imagination. He became a leader not only in his company, but in his community, recognized for his ability to lead with compassion and integrity. His story inspired others to act with kindness, to value character over convenience, and to trust that life would honor their efforts in its own time. He had discovered that true success was not just about what you achieved, but about who you became in the process. And through it all, he never forgot the lessons of that first morning, the nervous walk to an interview, the chance encounter with a stranger, and the choice to help without hesitation. Those moments had set him on a path that transformed his life, teaching him that kindness, courage, and integrity were not just moral principles, but the foundation of opportunity and lasting fulfillment. In the end, the young man realized that life was not measured solely by accomplishments, but by the choices made along the way. The kindness he had shown, the patience he had exercised, and the integrity he had maintained became the pillars of his success. And as he continued to grow, learn, and lead, he carried those lessons with him, knowing that the true reward for living a life guided by values was not just recognition or reward, but the quiet, lasting sense of fulfillment that comes from knowing you have acted rightly, no matter the circumstance. The story of the young man became more than a tale of opportunity. It became a testament to the power of character, the importance of empathy, and the surprising ways life can reward those who live with heart. His journey reminded everyone who heard it that even in moments of doubt, uncertainty, or missed chances, choices made from kindness and integrity could shape a future beyond imagination. And as he walked through the city each day, still remembering the day he chose to help a stranger, he smiled quietly to himself, knowing that life had unfolded in a way that honored who he truly was. He had missed an interview, yes, but in doing so, he had gained something far greater, a chance to live a life guided by values, a life filled with purpose, and a future shaped by compassion, courage, and integrity.